Part of life is about always not feeling like that you know everything, because if you think you know everything, you don't actually absorb and you don't listen and you don't interact with that information and that knowledge and that further experience.
I'll butcher this saying, but two things came to mind just then when you were saying is you don't know what you don't know. And often the person who is, I suppose, cynical or speaks the most, but if they speak the most and they're not sitting there absorbing the information, there's a chance that they're unwilling to learn. And as you say, it's every time I am, for the most part, you try to learn not only if it's a condition that you've been presented with, because a lot of the times there will be similarities, but also ways of communication and what will work for someone. And then even just like principally your treatment could be the same, but your monitoring and evaluation could be different.
Do you find though, and I think in life, we always are learning and we're always improving and we're always getting more experience. Like with every client that you sit in front of and help, you're building your knowledge, you're building your experience, you're building those kind of talents and those skills, backed, with the education and the research. And I'm sure you're always kind of working on your professional development as well. But, you know, when you sat there in front of the dietitian that kind of inspired you to be a dietitian, um, you were like, I know nothing, right? And part of, I think, life is about always not feeling like that you know everything. Because if you think you know everything, right, you don't actually absorb and you don't listen and you don't, interact with that information and that knowledge and that further experience.
Mm. It's I'll butcher this saying, but two things came to mind just then when you were saying is you don't know what you don't know. And often the person who is, I suppose, cynical or speaks the most, which doesn't reflect well for me because I'm a bit of a yapper. But if they speak the most and they're not sitting there absorbing the information, there's a chance that they're unwilling to learn. And as you say, it's every time I am, for the most part, you try to learn not only if it's a condition that you've been presented with, because a lot of the times there will be similarities, but also ways of communication and what will work for someone. And then even just like principally your treatment could be the same, but your monitoring and evaluation could be different. Do you know what I mean? Or the way you get them to do the food symptoms diary, it could just be a piece of paper, fill this out, I'll see you in a week. Or recently, actually, this started with my brother who's just signed an A-League contract. I put my sports dietitian hat on, and anyway, I've created this what is definitely an overextensive Excel spreadsheet where I want him to basically journal every day, and it's not necessarily like, "What did you eat today?" It's like, "Did you hit your carb target?" Which for him, at a minimum, is 425 grams per day, an absolute minimum of just carbs. And okay, how did you perform today? How did you feel about that? What are you going to change the next time? How much, how many liters of water did you have? Did you have your stamina? All of these questions. How did you feel about that? What's bugging you? Like, so there's always depth. I guess what I'm trying to say is the principles in how you treat someone, if you understand the condition, probably aren't that different. Like there is a cause and effect that you can draw on, but the way you monitor and evaluate that and get specific with how you extract that data can be improved. And whether that's through communication, whether that's through like observational things where I make people pretty much journal for me, and that's on an Excel spreadsheet that I can watch in real time. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
So,
Yep.
so you are right. There's always room for learning. And like you said before, I've actually thought if I'm starting to get hypercritical with this thought, because I will often look back to the year before and things that I was doing and think, God, you're a dumbass. Like why did people even see you back then? And then the thought goes to my mind and you're like, you think this like every year or two, buddy? Like, are you ever going to be satisfied? Were you ever doing a good job? No, look, I feel like I've always done okay, but you do look back and realize how far you've come, especially if you are passionate about what you do and that you are willing to learn.
Yep. Yep. Perfect. So being a personal trainer, also being a dietitian, what's more important, nutrition or exercise?
You've split me in half. Uh, uh, um, it's like the communication thing. What's more important, speaking or listening?
Yep.
It's 100% of both.
Yep.
So you Oh, so hard to answer. So you can train to high heavens and you will get a small amount of results, especially if you've never trained before, but that will be completely limited by your nutrition, completely. So
Yep.
if you are running ultra marathons, but you're still in a calorie deficit, in a calorie surplus, you won't lose weight.
Yep.
You just won't. Uh, and that works. Well, that's actually a pretty good summary. So if you get your nutrition 100% right, you're hitting all this protein, but you don't give your body any reason to have to grow the muscle. What's the point of all that protein? That could be better used in like hitting your vegetable targets. You know what I mean? Or in eating a bit more enjoyable foods. So I like to answer that it's 100% both, because they're synergistic in relationship. There is a strong amount of data, in particular these days, with regard to muscle being the organ of longevity. Even just thinking for how you look from a physical capability point of view in your older years, your later years. Are you able to play with the grandkids? Can you get up off the couch
True.
without any assistance? All of that comes from, I'm gonna finish this so well, you wait for it. All of that comes from the exercise that you've done, 10 years, 20 years before that. But if you did the exercise and you didn't hit the protein, you didn't grow the muscle anyway. Bang, they both matter.
Yeah, that's awesome. Um, so talk to me about, for someone sitting there, male or female, that is sitting there going, "Look, I'm not feeling that great." Where to like, talk me through the process of what you do from first contact, and how you kinda dig into, their journey and what's going on for them so that you can kind of, unlock their superpowers, I suppose, and unlock the secrets that, might be kinda hidden.
Yeah, good question. So my initial consults always are at least an hour long. We book an hour, and I very rarely nail that. As you can tell, I like to chat. Um, so the first thing I say to them is today is going to be, for the most part, a get to know you session. I'm going to ask you a million questions. You will know all the answers because they're all about you. And then we'll finish with a bit of a long term plan and some short term homework to get started. So that questionnaire will be like, okay, so goals and motivations for coming in. What are you trying to achieve? What conditions do you currently have? What do we want? And then more specifically, what do you want out of today? So, okay, I want to lose weight, and then today I want a meal plan. Then we're going to do their age, weight, height. We're going to figure out their BMI. We're going to figure out their calories. Then I'm going to ask what medications they're on, any recent blood tests that they've had, and that they have observed anything being high or low or out of range that's in a concerning way. Any conditions that they fail to mention, which happens all the time because you asked that at the start, what are your conditions? What's our goal? And then, halfway through, I'll ask about their medications and they'll be like, oh, I'm on X, Y, Z. And you're like, oh, that's funny. That's for a cardiac problem. You didn't mention that. Do you know what I mean? People are used to not talking about it. And then, asking how do they sleep, asking a comprehensive diet history, which is a funny one, which we can get back into. Everyone always reports that they have, just some like potatoes, meat and veg, really, every night. When you ask people to recall what they have, then when you give them the food symptoms diary and they don't see you for 2 weeks, not once will you see that. Uh, um, then we do that. Then I'll ask a bit more about the environment. What are you doing for work? How active you are? If you have a support system around you, are your family going to get on board with this? Are they going to stick to how they eat? And then finally, sort of what barriers um, do you see getting in our way from us achieving the changes that we're about to make? And then beyond that, it's like I will then regurgitate that information to them and say, does that sound about right? Is there anything that you feel I have missed? And then the last question, my favorite thing to do is saying, do you have any questions? Somebody says, no, always no. And then this is the cool thing. If you had to make up a question, what would it be? It draws it out of you. So even if you are hesitant to ask the question for whatever reason, if you have to make it up, it's now hypothetical. It's not dumb to ask. So they get
Yep.
to ask it. Cool. All right. Now I'm getting to know you a bit more. So that's sort of how it starts. And then You started that with saying somebody's not sort of feeling the best right now, and it's difficult to give, and then they come in and see me, what happens? It's difficult to give overarching, do this, do that, because as you can tell, the initial consult is, I need to know everything. I want to know as much as I can, then I can tailor an approach to you. But there are certain things that you can definitely get started on. For example, statistically, 67% of Australians are overweight or obese. So if you have a
That's a
look,
massive number, hey,
massive. And if you have a look at the,
and it's
well,
not
I
going
have,
down.
no, and I have a skewed sample size of that because unless it's a, sports patient or someone that's having gut health issues, uh, majority of the people I see fit into that category. So then it's like, okay, well, we can work on a calorie deficit. We can work on meeting your recommended daily intakes for all of the 5 food groups. We can look into the Mediterranean diet. There's a lot we can do. And it all boils down to initial first steps. And if you're listening to this and you need to lose weight, start moving more, start eating less. I hate it. It sounds condescending, but it is the maths.
Yep. 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 And I suppose that comes out in, kind of those nutritional diaries and, when they're doing the recording and people are like, oh, Joel, I've been eating really well and I just not losing weight, right? And you'll look there and you'll go, no, you're actually
You're
eating too much and not moving as much as you should be.
You're gonna say, well, based on your requirements, your calories to lose weight would be about 2,000 calories per day. You have 2 of those 650 mil ice breaks, and they're 600 calories a pop. So you're having
Yep.
1,200 calories before you start eating. You've got 800 left. Good
Yep.
luck.
Yep.
That's like just over a meal.
Actually, it was interesting. I was, I'm not going to brand bash here, but I was sitting in a food court probably 10 or 15 years ago. And it was interesting because the guy I was sitting with was a personal trainer. And he said, look, have a look at this, right? He said, just watch this. He said, see that girl? She's just gone to Subway and she's got, like a 6-inch and she's thinking she's good, right? Subway, eat fresh, good. Then she's gone over to Boost Juice to get herself a fresh juice, right?
Yeah, killer.
And then she's gone and got some, she's gone and got some fruit or something from somewhere. And like we were watching her do this, right? And he's like, she thinks she's just having lunch. She thinks she's doing it the right way. He said, if I went and added up all those in calories, he said, she's probably done more than half of her daily
Mm,
calories
mm, mm,
just in lunch
mm. It's
without
it
knowing it because
Yeah,
she thinks she's eating healthy.
it's remarkably common, and the stats back that up. It's incredibly common, and I'm sort of reflecting in how I've been speaking already today, and it almost seems like I'm quite cynical of natural behavior, which I suppose deep down, maybe perhaps I am, but it's less cynical of people's natural behavior. The environment is what they call obesogenic. So even if you think like looking back ancestrally or anything, you'd have to go out and hunt for your food. I can order Coles online and it gets delivered to my door. I don't even walk in the grocery store anymore. It comes to me. The other day I went to put rubbish in a bin and I waved my hand over it and the lid opened. I didn't even open like we don't move. Do you know what I mean? And then to look at the positives of what that girl is doing, Subway Eat Fresh, we've probably got a decent serve, at least 1 or 2 serves of veggies in a sandwich. We've got one of our grain serves, maybe a little bit too much. There'll be a bit of protein in there most of the time. The Boost Juice, like in isolation, it's like, cool, well, you probably weren't going to eat that much fruit. Did you also put a bit of protein? They have protein options in there. It's like, cool, that's probably helping you with your protein target. So in isolation, from like a micronutrient point of view, it's like you may have got more micronutrients that most people get especially in a calorie deficit than most of the time.
Yep.
But if your goal was weight loss, it's like, well, you part of your bloods would be very healthy looking at micronutrient intake, but then as far as achieving the calorie deficit that you'd need to achieve weight loss, unfortunately, it's going to be tough for the rest of the day. There won't be much more food coming in.
Yep. Yep.
So, and that's the battle. That's the battle.
Yeah. So talk to me about the relationship between GPs and dietitians. So if someone's not feeling great, obviously the first step isn't going to a dietitian, right? But it's probably going and having a chat to your GP, I'm guessing.
Up to you. I have a lot of people that just come straight to me. Obviously, whether that's well, social media will lead to that outcome, and people that I know will basically people being aware of me and that I'm interested in this area, and if they think it's nutrition related, of course. regardless of if it's the chicken or the egg, if they haven't seen their GP, I will always recommend it. In
Yeah.
particular, if they are concerned about hormones, which a lot of people tend to be because that's trending. It's often not the case. Sorry to burst the bubble. But it's better for me. I'll always say go to the GP. In fact, there's a certain amount of blood markers that I want to look for, if for nothing else, for objective measurements. So I want to know where your cholesterol is. I want to know where your triglycerides are, your HbA1c, and your blood glucose fasting at the moment, because we can do them 6 months from now when we've had our nutritional intervention and then go, holy shit, look how much better I am as a result of what I've done. So it's a good way to pat yourself on the back, provided you do the work. So I'll always recommend to go for them, but then vice versa. If somebody is like, I don't know where to start, go to your GP. Look, they the jack of all trades, so to speak, and I mean that in the most positive way. They're going to send you to the right person, and they will hopefully do the right testing. And then if they think it's nutrition related, 70% of the time it will be. Love those stats. Then they'll send you to me. They refer to dietitians with something called an EPC, an Enhanced Primary Care Plan. That's where Medicare can pay for $60.35 for up to 5 sessions per year. That's not just for dietitians, it's for physios, exercise physiologists, psychologists, whoever the doctor deems you to go there. But to answer your question, the doctor will either send you to me, or I will send you to him, depending on what we're facing, if it's not diagnosable on the spot.